up, everyone? Welcome back to The 3 Show. With the season well underway, the standings are starting to take shape, so let's take a look at last week's action. As the now second-place team in the Central, the West Bend Power have found their way into the Tuesday 10 as the number 10 team after their two-game sweep over the Peoria Mustangs. West Bend's offense was definitely powerful, scoring a total of 15 goals over the weekend while only allowing 1 goal against. 11 players on their roster were able to register 2 or more points over the course of the 2 games, including the second star of the week in Braden Granning, who put up 6 points, including 2 goals and 4 assists. The Maine Nordiques and Norwich Sea Captains split their weekend series as Kevin Cunningham and his Connecticut squad won 4-1 on Friday night. The third star of the week in Jake Wilkerson would score 2 goals from the blue line for Norwich, in addition to notching 1 assist to aid his team to victory. Maine would come out with vengeance during Game 2 as they forced the Sea Captains to overtime, ultimately coming away with a 4-3 win. Maine would head into the final frame down 3-2, and it was Cannon Go who scored the lone goal in the third period to tie things up before Carter Walls banked home the overtime winner just over 2.5 minutes into extra innings. The Helena Bighorns improved to 10-1 after a sweep over the Sheridan Hawks, despite their in-division rival giving them a run for their money. Both contests were decided by 1 goal and were low-scoring games. During Friday's 1-0 game, the lone goal was scored in the second period coming off of the stick of Austin Uker. Saturday's game was filled with back-and-forth action as the Bighorns opened up scoring in the first period, putting themselves up 1-0. A total of 5 goals were scored during the second period, the score being 3-3 through 40 minutes, with second star of the week, Finn Theriault, scoring his second goal of the game for Helena. Things would then head into overtime as the score remained tied at the end of 60 minutes. It would be Jeffrey Hirschberger who would net his second goal of the season in overtime to seal the deal for the Bighorns. The Texas Roadrunners and El Paso Rhinos had quite the weekend as Mike Beavis and the Roadrunners won the series 2-1. Starting out on Friday, the Rhinos would give the Roadrunners a true test as they came up just short of completing a comeback victory, as Vincenzo Cavazos would score the game winner for Coach Beavis just 1 minute after El Paso tied things up. After a 5-0 victory on Saturday for the Roadrunners, the Rhinos came out with something to prove and did just that with their 4-0 victory, an impressive first win on the season. Donovan Bradford would lead the way offensively with 2 goals, while netminder Dylan Newton played outstanding, making all 37 saves for the shutout. The Granite City Lumberjacks are made undefeated after a pair of wins over the Alexandria Blizzard and Rochester Grizzlies. Granite City kicked things off on Friday with a demanding 6-3 victory over the Blizzard as star of the week Parker Comstock scored a hat-trick and tallied 1 assist, claiming 4 out of 6 points on the evening. The Lumberjacks will be tested a bit more during their cross-divisional matchup with Rochester that resulted in a final score of 3-2. 4 of the 5 goals would come in the first period as each team scored a pair within the first 20 minutes. With things tied up heading into the final frame, it would be the third star of the week in Connor Miller who scored his second goal of the game as the game winner for the Lumberjacks. Continuing with our segment of highlighting NA3HL alumni having success in the NA, let's take a look at El Paso Rhinos' Kyle Arius. During the 2023-24 season, Kyle Arius split time between the NA3HL and NAHL teams in El Paso, developing as needed at the Tier 3 level. Playing in 20 games with the NA3HL team, the Orland Park, Illinois native recorded 36 points, earning himself a call-up to the NA team for the remainder of the year, including 8 games played during the Robertson Cup playoffs. So far this season, Arias has appeared in 11 games for the Rhinos at the Tier 2 level, tallying 2 goals and notching 2 assists on top during last season's call-up. When asked about Arias, Rhinos head coach Joe Coombs stated, "We tendered Kyle and believed in his ability. He is a very talented player, but after his first game in the NA, it was evident that he was not quite ready for the level. Kyle agreed and we moved him back to the NA3 to build on his strengths and continuing building his confidence, where he played approximately 20 games before we brought him back. Since returning to the NAHL, he has been outstanding in a top 6 role." And with that, let's switch over to this upcoming weekend and highlight some important matchups. In the East, the second and third place teams in the Mountain Kings and Sea Captains face off during a home-and-home series for their first meeting of the season as well. Looking back at the 2023-24 campaign, these 2 organizations faced off 10 times, the Sea Captains coming away victorious for 80% of the games. Continuing with the theme of first matchups of the season, the Ice Dogs will host the Wild for a 2-game series. When looking at the last set of Gillette games, the Wild put up a fight during their season with Helena, as both games were decided by just 1 goal, while the Ice Dogs swept last weekend's series. This weekend will be important when looking at the standings as either team has the ability to jump up in the ranks. Down in the south, the Ice Bats traveled to New Mexico to take on the Ice Wolves. It's safe to say that the Ice Bats are new and improved compared to years past, and this series with the South Division semifinalists from last year will be a series to watch. Players to keep an eye out for include Austin forward Georgi Tokarski, who is currently over a point per game player with 14 points in 9 games. Meanwhile, New Mexico's Jake Wenner, who is a hometown player, is ready to help his team offensively and has already had 7 points in 5 games. Rounding things out in the West, it will be a battle for third place in the division as the Blizzard and Wilderness face off at the Hippodrome in Eveleth, Minnesota. For the Wilderness, this will be Ben Johnson's first game behind the bench as head coach, as Zach Steppen has been promoted to the NAHL Wilderness squad. That does it for this week's episode of The 3 Show. As always, be sure to follow along the live scores on our website and tune in live on NATV.